Hello, everybody. A new episode of Confessions with a Facilitator. Woohoo! The mini Zoom series dedicated to facilitators and their favorite tools. And for those of you who don't know what tools we are talking about, you don't know it yet? After 60 interviews? Well, we're talking about the tools of access consciousness. This huge box where you go, you pick out tools and toys, and you change your life just like by magic. Well, with one condition, that you choose for it. And today I have the pleasure, leisure, excitement, surprise, and so much more to welcome Sarah Grandinetti, certified facilitator with access consciousness. And then, Sarah, just before we start, there are two rules. Rule number one says we have fun.
Oh, I love that rule. You got me.
You do.
That's my favorite rule.
Rule number two says when rule number one fails to apply, we go to rule number two that says apply rule number one. Have fun.
I'm in.
Cool. So I'm going to do my telenovela piece right now. I'm going to look into your eyes, virtual eyes, and I'm going to say, Sarah, who are you? And what is your favorite tool?
Okay. Do I get to be my telenovela self when I talk about it?
You can. Please do.
Okay.
Whatever you feel like it, you would.
I would like you to know my favorite tool. Well, who am I? That's a great question. I actually ask myself that every day.
That's my tricky question.
I don't know. I mean, I'm the being they call Sarah, but I don't know if she's anything like she was yesterday, which is what is so cool about the tools of access consciousness and this little box that you were talking about, where you pull in all the tools and the gifts and the toys and all the fun things. So when you ask the question, who am I could give you like, where am I? I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Wow.
I was a salon owner, but I don't even feel like I mean, I technically still own a salon, but I'm not there very often, but I'm a hairstylist. I have a bunch of kids and
a bunch of kids. Okay. How many do you have?
4.
Oh, you beat me on that one. I only have 3.
There's no only 3 to parenting, so no. And I travel the world teaching access consciousness classes, and I have my own class that I get to teach called I Am Beauty that I co-created with Cassie Summers. So I love that. And I'm an infinite being who changes all the time and loves it. So that's who I am.
Wow. And
I love to have fun. I actually have like a thing on Skype where you get to put like your little saying underneath your name. And it literally, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. That's my,
if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. Well, I have another one, maybe because I come from a different part of the world where I learn stuff differently. Mine says, when shit hits the fan and spreads all over, what else is possible?
I like it.
That's kind of I used to be a teacher of English, and the first word I would teach to the kids when I would go to high school would be shit. So all the expressions with shit would come out. Well, I was not the most appraised type of teacher among teachers.
I would have praised you.
But the kids. Yeah, that was a different story.
Yeah.
Cool. You passed the test, Sarah. The first question is answered. Woohoo! How does it get any better than that? And now we get to the tools, Sarah. What is your favorite tool?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay. It's hard to say because there's so many tools. I like, if I were to like can I do an umbrella tool, and then can I just see it like that? Like there's like the umbrella tool.
You are asking permission from me.
Yeah. So the umbrella tool that encompasses all the other tools so much so is living is the question. So if you're willing to ask questions about anything and everything and never seek an answer, then then you can actually create anything in your world. So just getting that, we are raised to, and I don't care what part of the world you come from, it doesn't fucking matter, because you are taught to find the right answer. You are taught to narrow everything down to one or two choices. You're taught to go this way with your reality and go into the conclusion of what is right and wrong. And it's like this, but when you go into question, you actually go like this. And
so actually my body is going the right way.
Yeah, I mean, your body is going the right way. Yeah, hey, I love it. Exactly. So like just to ask questions, and then on the day it depends what I'm asking questions about. So one of my favorite like being you questions is, if I was really being me here, what would I choose? And so people look at access, they're also like, tools, what the hell, like what you talking about? And what I often tell people is just it's processes, it's questions, it's possibilities, it's body processes, it's energy, it's all these things. But one of like the easiest things for people to grab onto is just like, hey, I ask different questions about stuff. So one of my favorite being you questions, because we're both being you certified facilitators, is, if I were truly being me here, what would I choose? Like, what would I be aware of? And if I were including me here, what would I choose, or what would I be aware of? That's my new one. Because
okay, can you repeat that? Because the moment that I see it in myself, that if I were being me, what would I choose? That's okay. You know, it's kind of, I drilled myself into it. I'm neglecting that question, I have to admit. Sorry, it's only me. None of you out there. It's just me. I'm a bad student. But when you said to include, then it's something that just hit a chord. So can you please?
I can. So I uncovered this one for myself. So I ask a lot, like, if I were truly being me here, what would I choose? And the me that I define myself as is somebody who gives themselves up for other people, or aligns their reality or what they can choose based on how it will affect everybody else. So when I was saying, if I were truly being me here, what would come up? If I were truly being the person that I know to give themselves up all the time for other people, what would I choose? And so I would choose the thing that would give everybody up, because of my definition of me. So I started to like run some clearings on what definitions of me, and their definition clearings that are awesome, and reference points to who you be. So if you're willing to wake up and not be anything you were yesterday, you could choose anything. And short of having amnesia, a lot of us, we have trouble doing that. So what I started to ask is, if I were including me, including my asks, including how I want to show up in the world, including my targets, including what would bring me joy, if I were including me here, whatever's in front of me, whether it's like a business thing, a money thing, a family thing, a relationship thing, if I'm including me in my asks and in what I'm looking at, what would I be aware of and what could I choose? And it changed so much, because I had to actually start to include me in a different way, and actually go into like, what do I want to choose with this? Like, what would make my life greater? What would my body enjoy? Like, things like that.
And I find it really, because our first sentence was, I'm a mom, the first one, but the first sentence was, I'm a mom of 4 kids, and I'm a mom of 3 kids. And I was like, the battle of who has more kids. It's not really a battle, but to what extent are we defining ourselves as being the moms? And isn't it the definition of a mom always putting herself on the last place? There's at least 3 kids or 4 kids who come first. Then there's maybe a partner, or maybe not, but there's certainly the dog and the cat and the fish, and then the house, and then the job, and then the so in this, how does it work for you on a everyday, on an everyday life? How do you do that? Give us an example, please.
Thanks for asking such rad questions. So one of the things that we talk about in Access is like start your day with a question. So one of the questions like we kind of joked about in the beginning is, who am I today, and what grand and glorious adventures will I have? One of the things that I started to look at was all those definitions. It was like a couple of years ago, definitions were big in Access, and we were clearing all these definitions. I'm like, wow, so before my feet even hit the floor, I'm someone's wife, I'm someone's mother, I'm someone's boss, I'm someone's friend, I have someone's daughter, someone's employee, someone's facilitator, like all these, right? So there, and then what definitions lay under that? So in this reality, people are like, want to be the right or the good of something. So I want to be a good mom, I want to be a good wife, I want to be a good blah, 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 on the list. And so if I didn't have any of that and I got to just wake up and be me, then I'm in total choice on how I want to show up as a mom that day, how I want to show up as a business owner that day, how I want to show up as a friend that day. And I get to be in 10-second increments, which is another tool, and not go by the definitions, because me trying to be a good mom, it's not fun for anybody. Me being willing to be a bad mom has actually opened up so much space for me and my kids, because I will do judgeable things that give them so much more of them. And so if we could just get out of right and wrong and not have to fill any definition, because a lot of times our definitions are bought and sold too. Like we bought those either from our parents who were like, I'll never do that, right? Or, you know, before you had kids, you like look over and you see a mom doing a certain thing. You're like, oh, she's amazing. I'm going to do that. And your kids are totally different beings than you were or any other kids. And you have to be willing to be present. And I see myself as a parent, like more like a coach rather than a boss. So I'm like, hey, okay, I'm put you in the game. I can't go play the game for you. I'll put you in the game, tell you what I know and contribute to you, but I'll put you in the game. And that's a totally different space of parenting, but not by the definitions that I bought as a kid of what, or as a young adult of what a good mom would be. So taking the definitions out actually gives you total choice and freedom and space to be you, to create your life in every moment.
You know, taking the definitions out, I think I think that this is one of the parts where I kind of royally fail. And I look at my kids like you know, like today. But then again, am I really failing, or is it something that I'm failing to recognize? And I'm going to be very honest about that. Honest to the extent that I can be honest with myself, is that today I manipulated my kids to give me bars and body processes. Brilliant. And what did I do? Normally I pay them, like I give them money. But today I was like, if I don't get my bars run, I might kill someone. So what would be here the next best option? So there's Jeremy asking, Mommy, would you like me to run your bars? But then I get on the screen. Now, we are on a Thursday, and normally is a total no-go for screen time. And then I found myself into, actually it would be kind of fun to have a body process and the bars run at the same time. Why not? And it was like, how far am I from anything and everything that my mom taught me what it is to be a mom, that you have to be in control of everything, that you have to have always the right answer, that you have to, you know, like the military in house. This is what was a mom for me. And I was just lying there on the bed and I was like, how does it get any better than that?
Yeah.
My kids are kind of access kids. Like by proxy, one of them is very into it. The other one is, yeah, I don't like it, but I will put my hands on you. And, you know, I don't care. It's like, it gave me this insight into, wow, it can be done differently once you're willing to step out of the definitions that you learned from somebody else. My question would be, what is your definition of what it is to be a good, and are you willing to step out of it?
Yeah. Well, or how much ease are you willing to have? Because a lot of times it's the ease we're avoiding. Because if it's easier to pay your kids, like there's so much judgment of like, I shouldn't have to pay my kids. They should just want to be a contribution. Well, okay, today they're not. Today they're not. What's going to create ease for you? Give them $10 and say, can you run my bars before I kill anybody? It'll be a lot less than the lawyer bills that you'll all have to work for to get me out of freaking jail when I kill somebody, right? So you can be like that have that willingness and that play. And I'm exactly the same way with my kids. What you're talking about is like, okay, cool. If I didn't have to make all their decisions for them, if I didn't have to always be right, if I could admit when I was wrong, if we could have like conversations over consequences is my big thing in my house. Like I'd rather have a conversation with you and contribute to you than like have to give you a punishment. That's no fun. But then they don't do the things that require punishment because we've had the conversation. It's just, and it's a totally different way of being. But I know like for me in all areas, not just parenting, that's one area of your life that you're like, hey, I'm being different here. If you had that in all areas, how much more ease would show up because you're not trying to match some scale or some written to-do list that was written, hundreds of years ago, what it meant to be a good mom, that is not even relevant anymore. Like How much fun can you have?
But then at the same time, I have this question: how? It's not a how, but I have a partner, and sometimes when I wake up, I do wake up with this, what's the grand glorious adventure that I and my body are going to live today. And then it might be the first coffee in the morning, and that's just but then I have this partner who loves me, and I totally appreciate it, and I'm so grateful for him. However, instead of going through the question process, he kind of gets the conclusion that when I'm not doing the stuff according to his definitions, then he has to step in and do it for himself. So what is the question to ask there?
Okay, so do you mean like are we in regards to the kids, or just about
everywhere? So if it's the kids, if it's the household, if it's the business, if it's somewhere where I kind of choose differently, and then he comes in and says, okay, no, I'll do this because you're not doing it, and we are not going to start a fight, but I have to do this. Like I can afford myself not to wake up in the morning when the kids wake up exactly at the same time. Those brats don't sleep. So they are like 5:30 in the morning up and running and about. It doesn't work for me, but he's up for them. So at the same time, I'm like, okay with my choice, but then somehow I'm not okay when I see that he's doing
it from resistance of what you're choosing. Is that what you're saying?
Or from not trusting that what I'm choosing is really nurturing.
Yeah. So I would ask you, my first question would be like, are you willing to be not trusted?
It's only for me. It's not for you, peeps.
No, it's only for you. Because really, if you're getting the rest and the nurturing, and you have your knowing about what's required to get the kids out the door or whatever, and he wants to have a judgment of that and get himself up early and drag himself through the morning routine without you until you wake up at 7, that's his choice. Like, that's cool. And you don't have to like prove it that anything. It's just, hey, I mean, I have these things run in my relationship too with my husband. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is what works for me. And I want to honor what works for you. And how can we be a contribution to each other? So if you want me to do the kids the morning, then I'm going to wake up at this time, and this is how I do it. And then on the days that you do it, you do it. And I'm not going to get up and tell you to get your ass back in bed because they don't need you. And you shouldn't be pushing me to get out of bed, earlier than as long as they get to school on time. Can we both agree that however we do it can be different? But like really willing to have the vulnerable conversations is what I always talk about in class, because a lot of times we go into conversations that are like all about proving like our point of view with especially with spouses. And I've learned a lot about that lately, because as I do more and more classes, and it shows up even more and more in my parenting or in my relationship or whatever, like my different awarenesses about being, I have to be aware that like he's not going to all those classes, and he's using the tools as much as works for him. And if I try to shove it down his throat or make him wrong, he's only going to resist more. So how can I have his back and where he's at, and acknowledge that he does have a knowing with parenting. He's an excellent father, a great contributor. He holds down the fort because I travel so much. And so where can gratitude actually be the space I come from when talking to him about anything? And that usually changes a lot of the sticky parts.
Thank you for this. I know I'm taking it on. It's only for me. It's not for you, peeps. It's me dealing with certain stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But then you asked me a question. Are you willing not to be trusted? So what's that? I mean, what's that? For those who are watching and the trust just rang a bell, that you have to trust people around you and that you have to trust yourself. And then you come with the question, are you willing not to be trusted? And when you ask that question, I was like, no, because I want to be right.
There it is. There's the point of view.
Yeah.
Well, a lot comes up when someone doesn't trust you. How much do you have to go into the proving of you? period. The proving of your knowing, the proving of anything. And when you're focused on the proving, you're not in your knowing and in creating. So you're like, okay, what do I have to do to make this? It's still about like making other people happy. What do I have to do to make sure they trust me? And then it's just a windfall from there. What do I have to do to make they trust me? And then all your focus is on how everybody else is perceiving you and not on the creation and generation of your life. And so it's like, okay, cool. I'm willing to have you not trust me. And I'm willing for you to like, and so willingness does not mean you have to then go prove yourself trustworthy or untrustworthy. When you have a willingness for anything.
Can you repeat that? Willingness doesn't mean that you have to go prove that you're trustworthy or untrustworthy.
So if you're willing for anything, and I hammered on this word with Gary and Dane for the longest time, because I would say to people in classes, and I've had it said to me, like Gary gave me the best facilitation 3 years, and I heard it 3 years later. He asked me, are you willing to leave your salon? So I was having business partner problems. And he's like, you have to be willing to walk away. And all I heard was walk away. All my walls went up. Nope, not walking away. She's not winning this one. And I went into a 3-year like battle over business or whatever. Wow. And then I talked to him again, and finally I heard the word willing. And it's not that I had to walk away. It's that I had to be willing to walk away. And so that energy is hands off the wheel. Hey, I'm here. I'm not resisting you anymore. I'm not proving anything anymore. But like, I'm choosing to be here right now. And then when I did that, literally my business partner walked out with no buyout within like 3 weeks. She just left and signed everything over to me, because finally she was in it for the fight. She was in it for herself to be right. The minute I took my hands off the wheel, she was like, oh, there's no fight here left. I can't even prove to her whether I'm right and she's wrong, because she's not even in the ring anymore. We're not boxing anymore, right? I was just like, okay, cool, I'm out. And then she's standing in there. I joke about it being shadow boxing. So when you don't get in the ring with somebody, like right? Like swinging in air, and they tire out. So in the back to the trust thing. So if you're willing to not be trusted, it doesn't mean you'll never be trusted. It actually just means that you're willing to have them have that point of view of you, and you get to be free. And you're like, okay, cool. Don't trust me. That's fine. I know that I'm trustworthy. I know the things about me that I know. You don't ever have to acknowledge them, because I'm acknowledging them. So if waking up an hour and a half after the kids works for me, and the kids still get to school, and no one's like going to school without shoes, and they all have what they need, then that's cool. I'm trusting me. You don't ever have to trust me. It's fine.
Thank you for this, for really coming on the willingness, on the word of the willingness, because to me, for a very long time, being willing, as for you, being willing to meant like for example, are you willing not to be trusted? I heard the willing, but I heard the trusted part, and then I was so drilled that if you're not to be trusted, you're not reliable, and if you're not reliable, you don't have any value. So better carry the whole world on your shoulder than not have anyone around. So thank you for coming back on the willingness. Doesn't mean that willing to be not to be trusted is that I would become untrustable or untrustworthy. Yeah. It's just that state, that space where, okay, cool, let's see what happens. Yeah. And wow, thank you for this. Thank you for.
You might find that more people will trust you because you're not having to prove why you're trustworthy anymore, because proving puts people off. I did it for an amount of time until I got over it. Because like I was doing it when I came into Access, like when I visibly came into Access, and I was like going to prove that I had a place here. I was going to prove that, like, you know, I wasn't just here because I was Dane's sister. I was going to prove all these things. And it wasn't fun to be around me in the way that I am, like me being fun, being me, right? I was always like, okay, where can I step up and prove this? We're going to step up and prove this. So you imagine if you go on the other side of it, if you're trying to prove that you're trustworthy, like where are you overly dotting the I's and crossing the T's twice because you're like, okay, then they're going to get it finally. They're going to trust me. Yes. Their trust in you is their choice. If you're being you, what happens a lot of the time when I got out of the proving of anything, the people who were drawn to me were the people that I thought I had to prove to, that I no longer was proving to. So you might find that people will trust you way, way faster and with so much more ease and be like, oh, she's so reliable, because you're not stuck to anything of the proving energy that you are reliable. Yeah. So you just show up, you do what's required, you're in choice, and you're willing to say, hey, that doesn't work for me, because you're having your own back, you're including you. And then people are like, oh, what I can rely on with her is that She's willing to have her own back. She's willing to tell me when something doesn't work for her. She's willing to tell me that she's going to come through, and she comes through. I can trust her.
Wow. That's a total wow. I'm like, I stopped breathing while you were saying that. And I know that I'm going to take notes of that. I know. Because you just launched it, and I'm like, okay, I know this. No, fuck, I lost it. Okay, so I really have to go back to this. And no, it's only me. You peeps, you just have, I know, you got that. And then, because this links to something, this strikes a chord so deep in me. And I know we don't have so much time left, but I still have to ask this question. So, being reliable doesn't have anything to do with being responsible, or is it? Because it's like, how much are we proving that we are responsible parents and responsible adults and responsible whatever employees, and we go again into the proving, and what is actually to be responsible? That's if I recall it correctly, Gary says that it's just the capacity of giving a response. It's not to carry the whole shit of the whole world on your shoulders just because somebody decided that you have to be responsible.
Yeah. So what is I mean, you would want to look at so responsibility to me means that like the buck stops with me, or I'm the one that you're going to come to if because I'm looking at kids. So am I being a responsible parent? Well, that's all going to go by my judgments of responsibility, because I could tell you that my son is reliable and responsible, and my choice to say you don't have a curfew because you've shown me who you be and I trust you might be seen as irresponsible by someone's barometer, right? But the fact that he stays out till 3 o'clock in the morning, driving every kid home from the parties who've been drinking because he doesn't drink, and he wants to make sure everybody gets home safe. So him being out at 3 o'clock in the morning, someone say that's irresponsible. I'm like, yeah, but he's saving lives literally, and being so responsible that it gets him home at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's just by who's judging really on what responsible is. And so I'm willing to be judged if it works for me and it creates ease for my family, then judge me as irresponsible. Whereas someone else might look at that and go, oh my God, that's so responsible. It's just it's based on whoever's looking at it, So if you're just creating your life with what works, and you're not trying to avoid judgment or get the good judgment, the right judgment, because good and right are harder to shake than the wrong ones. Yeah. So if you're okay, cool, I'll be right here, I'll be wrong here, I don't care what, whatever, this is what works for me in this moment, with me being me and my family and whoever I'm dealing with, creating the greatest outcome. And after that,
wow,
reliable, responsible, it's always going to be up to someone else's judgment to decide that, and basically what expectation they put on you to start with. So if they have no expectations, then you'll probably be super reliable. And if they have 100 expectations and you met 98, then you still might not be reliable.
Whoa.
It's their measure. So you're probably better off just being you.
You're probably better off just by being you. And yeah, and I would just stay with this line and draw this to an end. And thank you so much for this moment. And wow, I got into a whirlpool of getting inside myself, getting outside myself, and seeing from all kind of perspectives. Thank you so much for.
You're welcome. When do I get you on my show? Have you signed up yet?
There's no place left. Not this year, anyway.
I will look. I thought there were a few. We added more dates. You haven't.
I haven't checked.
We'll do this after.
Okay, Sarah. Before we say goodbye, and we know there's a book club starting, so we both. Okay, so before we leave, if people want to stalk you, this is my favorite word. When they want to obsessively look for you, where can they find you?
So the best place to stalk me is Facebook, because I'm over 35. I know you can't believe it. So I'm on Facebook more than I'm on Instagram.
I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It's just too funny.
Or there's Grandinetti.com, which will have has my upcoming classes and some things on there. It's a simple website. or they can call you and bother you for my number, and you can decide whether they get it or not.
I'm never giving numbers.
Okay.
I'm bad at numbers, but you can bother her if you want to.
Yeah. Facebook would probably be the easiest way.
Cool. Until next time, peeps, that we see each other live or online. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're
so much
welcome.
gratitude for this whirlpool tonight. And jump on the book club, peeps. Jump on the book club. Being you changed the world. Woohoo!
Yeah, thank you so much for being so fun. Adore you. Mwah.
See you. Bye bye.